My name is Shawan Breithel, and I'm a community engagement specialist with the City of Frederick. Thank you all for being here tonight. Shortly, you will hear from Mayor Michael O'Connor in regards to a budget update. Also tonight, we have Katie Barkdahl, Director of Budget and Administration, and Lacey Gordon, Manager of Budget. Thank you all for being here. All right, Mr. Mayor O'Connor.
Thank you, Shawan, and let's give it up for the communications team that's put a lot of work into bringing all of this together today. Wouldn't be possible without all their hard work. We're going to run through a very brief slide presentation here to kind of give you an overview of the process that we use here in the City of Frederick, but really we want this evening to be about you sharing some of your thoughts. So when we get to the public comment portion, solely for the purposes of being able to capture the comments, we're going to ask people to come forward to this microphone. I hope nobody's got too much stage fright and standing in front of a group of people and giving their comments. We are going to ask you to give your name and a general address for the record, just so that we have that. This is a public meeting subject to the rules of the Maryland Open Meetings Act. We started a process similar to this during last year's budget cycle. It was later, however. We were already past the point where our departments had submitted their budget requests into the budget office. That doesn't happen formally in the city until the end of this calendar year. So the comments that come out of these discussions are still an opportunity for what we hear to potentially influence some of those departmental asks that will be part of what we will evaluate in the Office of the Mayor in putting together the mayor's proposed budget. The roles and responsibilities in the city, and there have been some charter changes that clarify a little bit of the role of the executive and the role of the city council. I would say when it comes to the budget process, there's really not a lot that's substantially different, except for the city council now as the entity versus the Board of Aldermen. It's always been the mayor's prerogative to present the budget. I'm required to do that by a certain date according to charter, and at a certain point in the process, it shifts to the council, and the council ultimately is the entity that appropriates the dollars that fund the government for the next calendar year. The city council will approve all of those things by simple majority votes, and that will happen usually sometime in the spring. Usually the second public meeting that they have in May is generally set aside for budget discussions. They will approve the tax rate by that date as well. We need to do that to comply with the county's requirements because they mail our tax bills as part of their tax bills to all of our residents in the city of Frederick. The council has to act on a budget by the 20th of June by charter, or the mayor's proposed budget would become the budget for the city of Frederick effective July 1st. I can make revisions to my budget up until May 14th. So we'll present a mayor's proposed budget on April 1st, on or about April 1st. We've done that over the past few years with a budget message that we release to the community and give the large budget book to the council at that time. The process then becomes theirs in terms of public hearings and holding community meetings and hearing from the public and asking questions of our staff as they go through that process. But all during that Q&A with the council, with the community, I can still make changes to my budget. I can do that up until May 14th. And all of those changes, when I make them formally, are now the new mayor's proposed budget. After the 14th of May, I no longer have the ability to make any revisions to the budget. Any budget revisions at that point have to come through a vote of the council. And they will do that typically in a motion, potentially with a series of amendments. In the past, there's always been a fair amount of collaboration between the mayor's office and the Board of Aldermen, the city council, in terms of trying to make sure that the budget as of that date of the 14th represents to the greatest extent possible a consensus of both the executive and the legislative branches. It should go without saying, but we'll say it anyway, our budget has to be balanced. The budget that I present to the board has to be balanced. Any budget changes that they make have to be balanced. Revenues must equal expenditures. We wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the current city's budget because in all likelihood, the next city budget will not deviate wildly in terms of where the large allocations of funding are going. If you look at the pie chart up here, you will see that from a revenue perspective, the biggest piece of revenue that the city has available to spend on city government comes from property taxes. There is a piece of that that is also income taxes, the piggyback income tax, but the biggest piece of that blue piece of the pie is property taxes. You will also see the other areas, intergovernmental transfers, charges for services, some of our enterprise funds, things like the water and sewer accounts, the parking fund, those kinds of things. Those are all fee for service. There's various licensing and permit fees that we collect. We don't balance the budget based on those kinds of items. It really is the property taxes that drive how we're able to do things in the city of Frederick. It is one of the reasons why I will tell you statewide, there's a lot of conversations amongst municipal leaders about how municipal governments can potentially diversify their tax bases. We are so reliant on property taxes that upward pressure on pricing of real estate then is kind of a double hit in terms of both our residents and the city in terms of the way we fund our budget. So if we can find ways to diversify our tax base, it might allow us to take some pressure off the property tax rate as the primary means of funding local government. From an operating standpoint, it should come as no surprise. We are a service delivery organization at our core. What we do every day is provide services to the residents, the businesses, and the visitors that come to town, and that is the most simple and basic services that you can imagine. From a public works perspective, it is things like making sure that we're providing clean water and taking the dirty water away. It is plowing snow, should we ever get snow again. It is making sure that the street lights are working and maintained, that signage is appropriately maintained, that our parks get mowed, that curbs and gutters and streets and all those kinds of things get repaired in a timely fashion and on a schedule that we can manage with the resources that we have. The Public Works Department, those operations are the biggest piece of the pie. When you look at the budget book, you're not going to see a department that has a $53 million bottom line to it, because in the budget books, the functions of the Department of Public Works get broken down into their smaller departmental areas, signs and roads and street maintenance and other kinds of operations within the Department of Public Works. But when you take all of those budget codes and put them together, it becomes the biggest piece of the city's budget. The second biggest piece should come as no surprise either. It is the funding for the Frederick Police Department. We have a really strong department in the city of Frederick. It's about 154 officers, if I remember the number correctly. And as the city has grown, we have done our best to keep the support and the number of officers in place as well. We're in the process of building a new headquarters for our police department. They have woefully outgrown their existing space inside the Frederick County Courthouse, and that's going to allow us the opportunity in coming years to continue to expand the services that the Frederick Police Department is able to do on behalf of our residents. If you look around that pie, you see a lot of the other functions of government. We are a full-service city. We do many different things, from maintaining 75, 76 parks in the city of Frederick to having all of the back-of-the-house operations, budget, legal, finance, economic development, our Department of Housing and Human Services. It's a full scope of services that we deliver to our residents, and our challenge in putting together a budget every year is to understand that there are many priorities that 82,000 residents of this community have, and we have to find a way to fund all of them. And we have to do that in a way that allows us to also be responsible in our revenue projections. And so as we look forward to fiscal 26, we wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of how we focused our budget efforts in fiscal 25. And every year as we put together the mayor's proposed budget, we try and have a theme or themes, things that we have heard from the community, concepts that we know we want to develop and build on. and how we can incorporate those elements into the budget and use the totality of the budget to address the concerns that we're hearing from the community. So in terms of those themes or those priority areas in the current year's budget, fiscal 25, there was a big commitment to quality of life issues. We put $1 million in the budget, and we just let a contract for that, a piece of that last week, to do sidewalk repairs, particularly in areas of the city where our current sidewalk repair apparatus places much of that burden on property owners. That's simply the way the code is written in the city of Frederick. We know that for some homeowners and in some parts of the city, that may present an undue burden. And so we have looked at our equity emphasis areas and tried to evaluate how we could use some citywide resources to make sure that we're not putting an undue burden on every neighborhood, and where can we step in as a city and do some of that sidewalk repair support on behalf of our residents. Traffic calming has been an area of emphasis. I was at a meeting earlier today with some residents, and I can tell you that on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, traffic, speeding are the most common concerns that we hear throughout the city. And so we've embarked on a very intentional effort to look at traffic calming throughout the city. What are the ways in which we can, with some small dollar amounts and building into our capital improvements using large dollar amounts, traffic calming efforts that can have the effect of slowing traffic down and ultimately making it safer for people to traverse the city, whether they're doing that in a vehicle, on a bicycle, or by walking. I can tell you that it's difficult it's a big city. It has a lot of needs, and the needs will never stop. Whenever we think we've finished one project, the next project will always be on the horizon. And so by developing a traffic calming CIP, what we're tasking our traffic engineers working with our police department and the other folks in our Department of Public Works is to make sure that they keep that list running in terms of where we need to go next to address speeding concerns. That can look like South Jefferson Street, if you've been in that part of the city, where we put bump outs and new paint and new signage and did some adjustments on where the stop bars are, all with an intention to make an intersection safer. It could be a new stop sign, such as we did at 9th and Mater, to create a three-way stop at an area where, as we collect data, and a lot of these traffic calming decisions are driven by our data collection, the complaints that come in for the residents, the evaluations by our traffic engineers, and what our police department will do from an enforcement standpoint. We use all of that information to drive the next project in the pipeline. And so we would envision that this is not something that's going to go away, but it has been a very intentional effort in the current budget to look at traffic calming. And this dedication to the speeding issue was the police officers that were added into the authorized strength of the police department with the intention of being able to stand up a dedicated traffic unit. When you think about all the things that a police officer may get called to do in a day, it's possible that a complaint about speeding in a neighborhood may not rise to the level, depending on whatever the workflow is for the day of investigations or other activities that they may have going on. By building a dedicated traffic unit, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get it fully in place the way we want it, it will mean that there are officers whose job is not to wait for a complaint to come in and to prioritize it next to all of the other work they may have to do. Their job will be to go out and do traffic enforcement using that data that we've collected from complaints registered by our residents to areas that we know we need to do that targeted enforcement. So trying to be intentional with the way in which we spend the money to address the quality of life concerns that our residents have every day. We have a strong commitment and have had to sustainability, and that looks like a lot of different things. It is, of course, about broadly greening the environment, but you can do that in a lot of different ways. So the progress that we've attempted to make on the Rails and Trails program, the design funding that we have put into the CIP to keep those projects moving forward, where we are acquiring right-of-way and building out our North Branch Trail that will head from Carroll Creek Park north up towards Whittier, dedicated bicycle infrastructure on the roadways like Hayward Road or Tuscany Drive. People will look and see some of these disparate bike connection points and not necessarily see the big picture, I can assure you there is a citywide master plan when it comes to bicycle connectivity. And as we look at road projects anywhere in the city, we're taking on the effort to design that road, both what we ask the private developer to do when they're building new projects, but also when we have to undertake a road project, and we're looking at one on 7th Street within the next number of months to begin more work on. We want to, when we lay down that new blacktop surface, to do that with a complete streets mindset. We want the streets to work for motorists, bicyclists, pedestrians, mass transit, all of that. So that emphasis on transportation is a way that we can be sustainable in how we look at things. We established an urban forestry division in the existing year's budget. We have a lot of trees in the city of Frederick, but we don't have nearly as many trees as we need. And thinking about trees as a tool to help us be a more environmentally sensitive community, we needed people whose focus was on maintaining that urban tree canopy and identifying the best techniques and approaches to preserving and expanding that. So being able to set up an urban forestry division is a way for us to show that much like we have to maintain roads and much like we have to maintain parks, maintaining our tree canopy is as much service delivery as those other aspects of public works. And generally expanding our park maintenance capacity. I mentioned those 76 parks. A couple of years ago, we made an investment in a comprehensive parks master plan. As we look at ways to implement aspects of that plan, that overall park maintenance becomes a critical piece of what we have to fund on an annual basis. Again, it's sustainability here, but to the prior slide, it's also quality of life for our residents. The last area that I want to focus on that was a priority area in the current year's budget was our commitment to workforce development and opportunity. We established an Office of Opportunities and Transformation in the current year's budget. That was an outgrowth of the city's participation in the Good Jobs, Great Cities Academy, which was a partnership between the Federal Department of Labor and the National League of Cities. Frederick was one of 16 communities nationwide selected to be a part of that Good Jobs, Great Cities Academy, and it was an opportunity for us to use technical assistance from those entities to help us build out some areas in our city that we thought we could do a better job in. That has been a focus on youth and youth development, and you may have seen the announcement and some signing of the agreements to accept a piece of property from the county to build a youth center on Scotty's Bus Lane off Jefferson Street in the city of Frederick. We're looking at how we can better support our justice impacted residents, how we can build reentry, how we can support internships, fellowships, returnships, ways for individuals to enter or re-enter the workforce in a lot of different capacities. We work in partnership in many of these efforts with the work that they're doing at the county. So setting up this Opportunities and Transformation Office is not about the city doing things that the county or the state might already be doing, but trying to identify where there might be gaps and how we can fill those gaps by working across the private sector, the public sector, and the nonprofit sector to support our residents and workforce development opportunities. We know the critical need that most of our employers are facing. We're at virtually full employment in the city of Frederick when you look at the unemployment numbers, and yet almost every significant employer of any size in the city of Frederick is looking for help. And that means that there are jobs available. Now we have to find the workers. And post-COVID, young people did not come back to the workforce in the same numbers as pre-COVID. What do they need? How can we help them? What do we do to encourage them? So a lot of this conversation is about how the city can be a convener in conversations about bringing the tools to our residents that they need to make sure that the city of Frederick remains a vibrant community and a place where everyone, regardless of who they are, where they come from, or what their background might be, has an opportunity to succeed and thrive in the city of Frederick. So that's the broad overview of the budget process, where we will go from here, and what we have done up until this point for fiscal year 25. Now it's your turn. It's your turn to share with us, with the budget office, myself, what you would like us to see us focus on for the upcoming fiscal year. So again, we have a microphone here. We don't have any strict time limits in place tonight, but I would just ask everyone, if you come forward, to just be respectful of the room, try and make your points as quickly and succinctly as you can, so that we can get people through in a timely fashion. And thank you very much. Really appreciate seeing a great turnout for these activities. We continue to try and grow our interaction on these processes with the community. So thank you very much. The floor is yours. We didn't circulate a sign-up sheet, so you'll just, in the most orderly, disorderly way you can, just make your way forward.
Hello. Is it on? Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Leanne Cruz. I'm the Associate Director of Downtown Frederick Partnership and also a city resident. I live on East South Street. And I am here this evening to request that Sidewalks for All, the Downtown Frederick Streetscape project, be added to the city's capital improvements program schedule as part of the FY26 budget process. This important project will increase safety, improve walkability, and provide much-needed new infrastructure for downtown Frederick. As the hub of both culture and commerce for the city of Frederick, it's imperative that we invest in downtown Frederick's streetscape now. If we align streetscape efforts with the already planned stormwater infrastructure improvements, we will reduce disruption to city residents and businesses by minimizing the project timeline and digging once to achieve multiple major improvements for the city. Additionally, the city's financial backing will allow Downtown Frederick Partnership to seek millions of dollars of funding from state and federal support. The state of Maryland, our federal representatives, Frederick County government, city staff, and many city businesses and residents have already shown their support for this project. The project area covers 15 blocks, including both Market and Patrick Streets. And by supporting the downtown streetscape efforts, the city will create a safer pedestrian experience and equitable access for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Jenny Brace. I live on the west side of town, and I'm very involved with one of the city parks, Waterford Park. I'm here to advocate for replacing current glaring light fixtures, and as the city continues to upgrade the lighting in the city, to make sure that those upgrades are directed lighting and not the glaring globes that have been a model for city lighting improvement. Light pollution is a topic that has gained attention over the last 30 years. Many cities and the National Park Service are taking steps to reduce light pollution. Why have light where it is not needed or wanted? The city requires commercial lights to face downward, but non-commercial can face outward. Why? Many residents ask for black paint on the house side of the new streetlights. Many others have to buy blackout curtains. Why is it even necessary? It does not have to be this way. My view is that improved lighting in the city has meant brighter lighting. 8 years ago, glaring lights were installed on the path in Waterford Park. Neighbors complained, and black paint was put on the fixtures to reduce the glare and the amount of light coming out of the park on the north side. Nothing was done on the south side, so the light goes into the woods and up into the Waterford development. We were told the park's master plan would address lighting. No change to park lights yet. I understand lights on new paths will be with directed lighting, so there is progress, but I know of no plans to change the current fixtures. There is an option in the specs for the lights in Waterford for internal louvers. The city asked for none of the 6 reflector options available with the HADCO fixtures. Has anyone talked with HADCO about options? Why not shut off the lights for several hours each night? Why not have motion sensors? Has the city attempted to gauge path use between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.? Is there any data from the city? When our group had a camera trained on the path for months after the lights were installed, we found almost no use between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock. It's just the lights out there. The best option is directed lighting in combination with sensors or shut-off times. How many more years do we have to put up with the glare of the current fixtures? Frederick wants to be a tree city and a bird city. For sure, the trees and the birds and the insects that the birds rely on are affected negatively by light spillage, as are humans. I will continue to keep this issue before you. I am nothing if not persistent.
Thank you.
I'm Gail Peterson, a resident of Lee Place, a NAC coordinator for NAC 6 and 9. I do not have prepared comments. I am persistent. I don't even know that this is like the right place to say it, but I didn't want to miss the meeting or the opportunity. I just saw the most recent calendar for the NAC 2025 schedule. I think the city is growing exponentially year over year, and it's not going to stop. I think that the biggest advocates, the biggest strength that a city has is its residents, and the ability to communicate with the representatives that we've elected. I like that system. I like to be able to communicate. I've been advocating for 4 years for street calming and for a dedicated traffic unit, and I'm grateful to see that there's more in the budget for that this year. And I know that sometimes things take a really long time to happen, and that's where persistence comes in. I want to advocate for the neighborhoods. I want to advocate for the voices of the citizens, where we can collectively make progress, not just looking to complain, but work together, collaboratively to make progress, because I think that there's a lot of people that know that that's the best way to make really good decisions that benefit the most people. And I understand, I have always understood that there's things that you have to give up something, and you have to, be able to work together. But the city needs to commit. The city needs to do that. They need to commit to either reworking this NAC system, which I've been part of that 18-month project. Starts with communication. Communication. It's key to everything that you guys do. And I think that the NAC system has to be funded through the communications department and through outreach. I'm standing ready to be part of that. And I just hope that you keep that in your mind as you're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Not as a response to that comment particularly, but it did make me just want to make sure that people are aware that one of the changes that came with the charter is for the next election, which will happen in 2025, is an expansion of the size of the city council from the current 5 members to 7. And with that expansion to 7 members, 5 of those members will be elected in districts. And just last night, the council looked at a couple of proposed maps and the opportunity for the community to comment on those maps in advance of an anticipated adoption, likely in early February, is open now. So that all about communication and representation. So wanted to make sure that didn't miss an opportunity with this audience to point out the opportunities that are working their way through the process right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jim Smersall. I live in downtown Frederick, and I just want to reiterate my support for what Ann said about the Downtown Frederick Partnership streetscape study. I think now is the time to set up a CIP project for that, especially since it'll be coordinated with some of the storm drainage work that Zach and the Corps of Engineers are coming online with. Just as a little aside, I worked for the city when the downtown Market Street was reconstructed in I guess that was the mid-'80s. I worked in City Hall, it's now the Brew Pub, and I looked down over it, and it was disruptive. I mean, I saw people walking on planks to get into stores, but I can tell you the end result is far, far better than what was before it. But that was quite a while ago, as you can tell by my gray hair. And it needs to be re-looked at. So that is a project that I think the city should definitely place funds in the CIP. How much, design, that's all to be worked out, but I think it's a very worthwhile project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Smith. I live in downtown Frederick also. You might think I'd start with pickleball, but I'm not going to, Mr. Mayor. Surprise, surprise. You know, I think there's a really important opportunity downtown. You and I have had a conversation about this a few years ago, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, when you go to some other cities and they have areas that are like really just like no cars, people can walk and not be worried about being run over. And it's just so nice. And we're pretty far from that. I mean, you know, you're crossing the streets, you just got lots of things. I live downtown, so I have lots of experience walking there. So as you're thinking about how to rebuild Market Street in the downtown corridor, can we get some more areas like the Creek Promenade where just people walk? Right? Rather than having cars zipping through. And, you know, I don't have any children of that age these days, but little kids, you worry about running into a street, etc. You know, safety is separating cars from people, and that's a pretty tight area downtown right now. I hope we can make it much safer. So now I'm going to talk about West Side Regional Park a little bit. Okay? Fantastic opportunity out there. I went to at least a few of the planning or information gathering meetings, and really compelling case made for that community center. I'm so glad to know that that's funded. A little rusty on exactly where it is, but I hope to see it soon. But there are so many other opportunities out there. I really resonated with me the idea that we need to get them moving along. And I know money is a limiting factor here. But, there's a budget in play. And so I think that getting some more amenities built out there to really support that side of the city, that community that's in the area there, is really important. And it can support the wider community, which brings me to pickleball. It's the fastest growing sport in the city. There's no question. The city has done a fantastic job supporting it, and yet the growth is just incredible. And so more outdoor courts are really needed, and a great location for them is in that park. To me, the 70 some odd parks that the city has is both an opportunity and a challenge, because you've got so many parks to take care of. That's got to be very, very expensive. So let's get some of our common resources in a common place, which hopefully will be a little less expensive to take care of and more available to the wider community. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there, my name is Heather Goddard. I live in Monocacy Village, and I'm the president of the board of directors of East Frederick Rising. East Frederick Rising recognizes the growth coming to East Frederick along both East Streets and East Patrick Street, from Wren Quarter to Brickworks. Over 5,000 residential units will enter the development pipeline. Much of this growth is rightly targeted in the city's density enhancement area. Hopefully, new residents will generate new riders for public transport hubs within that area. In order to support this growth, we ask the city to place priority on supportive, critical infrastructure, including sidewalks and multimodal pathways both within and connecting our new neighborhoods. Among these priorities, we ask that sidewalks along East Street, the rails with trails shared use path, the 7th Street connection, or if not a street, then a shared use path along the existing berm, which would serve as a connection while we wait for a street connection. Providing multimodal options for transportation whenever and wherever possible in as many creative ways as we can find relieves traffic congestion with traffic spreading and helps connect neighborhoods with healthy and safe ways to travel through our beautiful city. We've consistently heard from our community that they eagerly await the extension of Carroll Creek Linear Path. Finally, thank you for making school site selection and focusing on compact urban elementary school sites a priority in East Frederick.
All right. My name's Matt Edens, and I live on West 3rd Street in downtown. And I guess I'm going to talk a little bit about downtown here. I guess a few years ago, after reading about how traditional urban development generates more tax revenue per acre than more conventional modern suburban development, I ran a little experiment. I took the tax assessment for the then relatively new Walmart Supercenter out at the corner of 26 and Monocacy Boulevard and compared it to a similarly sized chunk of downtown. At the time, the 21 acres or so covered by the Walmart and its parking lots were assessed for $18.3 million. It's a little higher now. It's like 22, something like that, which sounds like a lot. But when I added up the assessment for that similar sized chunk of downtown, the blocks bounded by Patrick, Court, 2nd, and Maxwell, the total came to just under $48 million. And that's despite the fact that those blocks contain several tax-exempt churches and government buildings. Oh, and unlike the Walmart, those blocks are also home to a couple hundred residents whose income taxes also contribute to the city's coffers. Downtown's density and mixed use also mean that investments in its infrastructure generate a higher rate of return, too. Everything from pavement to pipe to sidewalks serve more people per a given length than anywhere else in the city. And that's not just resident households. Downtown is a destination for people and visitors from across the city, county, and region. According to Visit Frederick, 1.9 million people came to Frederick County last year, pumping more than $500 million into our local economy. And the city estimates that 3/4 of those visitors came to downtown, numbers that will no doubt increase as the new Visitation Hotel and Downtown Hotel and Conference Center come online, which is why I'm urging that the city include Sidewalks for All, the Downtown Frederick Streetscape project, in its capital improvements program. With stormwater infrastructure work already planned, the timing is right, and since it's been more than 30 years since the city's made significant investment in downtown sidewalks and streetscape, the need is urgent. Thank you.
Once again, thank you all very much for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful upcoming holiday season in Frederick and a wonderful 2025. Thank you so much.